Good afternoon. Hope you're well. Thank you for attending this session. I appreciate that there are other distractions out there at the minute. My name's Chris Tess O'Neill, and we have got 60 minutes to get through as many business intelligence new features in SQL Server 2016 as we possibly can. Okay? Basically, I own a business called Claribuy based in the UK. I'm a Microsoft Most Valuable Professional. I'm a certified Microsoft trainer, and I do write the books for Microsoft. So don't blame me for the exams, but you can blame me for some of the courses. I've just finished off literally handing off the book for a 2016 course called Managing BI Operations. So I've spent 2008 and 2012 writing about the different technologies. I wrote the entire curriculum for 2008 e-learning. So I wanted to do something a little bit different, and I'm moving to more towards cloud engagements now. The Managing BI Operations, the course that will be coming out probably in the next month or so, is basically all your solutions set up, what happens when it's in production and it breaks. That's the intention of the course, so look out for that. I'm founder of SQL Relay, which is a UK tour. We try and pretend to be rock stars and fail miserably. SQL Server FAQ is where I put all the user group information, and I organise SQL Bits, which is a mammoth task, but very, very rewarding to see people dressing up as superheroes or space people on a Friday night. My passions in life are my family, and I'm very, very privileged to... I don't feel like I have a job. This is what I say to my kids. I love what I do. Really, really enjoy it. But I'm a failed rock star. Whoa, what happened there? I'm a failed rock star, so I did try and get signed with a band, and I left them, and they went on to tour with Motley Crue and all that kind of stuff. And I'm currently the running back for the Burnley Tornadoes, and I've got a game tomorrow, so I fly out to Newcastle tonight to play that game. So that's me, in a nutshell. What about you? Here's a list of publications that you can see from the slide deck that I make available. So we're going to run through integration services, master data services, analysis services, data quality services, and reporting services. It's essentially a kind of a whirlwind tour of what those new features are. Some aspects I'll demonstrate, but really what I'm hoping you'll get from this session is you're going to get an idea of what new capabilities are coming out in different technologies, and then you may want to go away and investigate that further. So for example, PASS have loads of videos coming out with some of the SQL 2016. They've just done 24 hours of PASS recently. So there was some SQL 2016 content on there. Developer edition of SQL 2016 is free, right? So you can download this now and start playing around with the technology. So I do urge you to take full advantage of this. So we're going to start off with integration services. The first thing to mention is that there's new data sources that have been added. So you've got all data sources, you've got Hadoop, Windows Azure connectivity. For how many people in the room use SIS? Oh, wow, only a couple of people. Okay, so fundamentally, for those of you that don't use SIS, obviously I'm not going to teach you to create a full package outright to load a data warehouse. But for those of you that do use SIS, you should be very familiar on how to add your data sources and how to add your destinations. It's relatively straightforward. You can also connect up to Azure destinations by using standard OLADB connections. So things like Azure Data Warehouse that James was talking about this morning is relatively straightforward through an OLADB connection, as long as you've got the firewall ports open to do that connectivity. What I'm interested in, well, the one that stands out for me, is the fact that the SIS catalog has had a bit of work done to it. So we've got new roles being defined that gives more granular permissions for how people can interact with it. So there's basically a catalog reader. The name escapes me from the top of my head. It's in my notes. But fundamentally, the roles that were there before were seen to be too privileged, for people who were just using the SIS catalog to read about typically error information that was occurring. The good thing about the error information that's coming through now is it's not done by an object ID. It is being resolved to an object name that makes it easier to troubleshoot and identify those areas of problems. Customized logging has been introduced. Yes! You know, for those of you that have been working on SIS for a long time, it was very common for you to build your own framework. Yeah? So fundamentally, you were capturing information in variables, persisting them in your own logging tables, and actually building reports on that. Of course, with the SYS catalog being introduced, they kind of went the other way, where they gave us too much information. It was very helpful of them that they created the SYS content report pack that we could overlay on these catalogs to pull out targeted information. But you can now, in 2016, create your own custom logging levels. And for those that are familiar with SYS, you're going to find aspects of this very familiar. And I'll give you a quick demo on how you can set up your own custom logging, and more importantly, how you can use it when it's being executed. We've also got lineage as well, so we can see the steps through which a data flow is going through, so you can track back. Support for availability groups. That's critically important, right? So fundamentally, they always said in the past, the common misconception with SYS, and particularly the SYS catalog, is that you couldn't implement it on a high availability solution. Yeah? Well, the truth of the matter is you could, but Microsoft would not support it, right? So I've been in scenarios where I've actually clustered a SYS database, but now we've got always-on support for the SYS catalog, which is now fully supported by Microsoft. So if you do get problems, in the past, you know, if it was on a high availability, they would go, well, we don't support that. Now you're going to get that support should you need it, which is good because it's an important aspect. We've got package parts. So these are aspects of a SYS package that you may want to reuse. How many people use reporting services? Yeah, so you know the concept of report parts, where you want to reuse components of a report again. It's a similar concept. It's a V1. It's all right. There's areas that could be improved. So, for example, it can only support one task. Yeah? So fundamentally, if you want to support multiple tasks, you have to put it in a container, yeah, to overcome that, which is a slight workaround. It's no dramas, really. But I like what they're doing with this, the fact that I can have this control part and then add it into different packages I can do. So it's kind of it's a semi-templating approach to SYS packages. For people who use SYS, do you use templates anyway? No. Yeah? Yeah? Templates are very, very useful. I use them a lot.
So in this case, you could have a custom C# component in there and then redeploy that.
Correct. It's one object. Yeah? One object. Okay? But if you want multiple objects, put it in a container. Okay? Here are other features to go through. So now the auto-adjust buffer size property will calculate the size of the data. Yeah? It was an estimate before. We've got an Azure feature pack for SYS released. You've now got a balanced data distributor transformation. Yeah, so you can add that into your data flows if you need to distribute transactions out. Incremental package deployment. Yes. Yeah, you guys aren't getting excited about that, are you?
You don't have to deploy by project anymore?
Correct. That's a big thing, right? For SYS, I found it almost like we got so used to the package level deployments in earlier versions of SYS that I could see what they were doing with the project deployment, and it did work well with the SYS catalog. There was benefits there, but one of the big downfalls was the fact that, you know, most of us had got into the habit of creating hundreds of packages in a project, and to make a change to one, we had to redeploy everything. Not anymore. We can now do incremental package deployments. Please note that on the slide deck that I'll make available, they are hyperlinks to the information if you want to find out more. So I'm trying to make it easier to go and investigate some stuff. And we're on 10 past already. Wow. We've got improved experience for project upgrades. I can speak. That works. Yeah. Not sure about the full capability of the C# scripts. Haven't done that yet. But for standard stuff that's found in the native stuff that's found in SYS, It's seamless. I can work with different versions of SIS in SIS 2016. Yes. It's all about making me efficient. You know, we had a bit of a tough time in SIS development over the last few years where we had to have multiple versions of Visual Studio installed, you know, in order to work for it. They're now getting back with the program and making it so that we're more productive in our work, which is what we need to be when we're building data warehouses and the flows through it. I've mentioned this already, column names for errors in data flows. So now you're not getting IDs, you're getting names. And basically, this is already in the RTM, but during the CTP period, the Community Technical Preview period, you had to download the SIS project separately for SSDT. They're now part of it. Okay, so SIS people, which stands out for you? Incremental package deployment? Yeah. Sorry? Custom parts, yeah. Customized login. Okay, let's take a quick look at that. So, I've got a VM in the cloud. And look, this package is not at all meant to be complex, right? Because we're not bothered about the logic. You know, you'll be able to go through the various control items and look at the various things that are in there and so forth. It's a very familiar environment, yeah. We've got these new additions. You know, you should feel right at home if you've been using SIS for some time. What I'm interested in is when I've actually done a deployment to the SIS catalog. So I'm logging into Management Studio right now, and I'm going to connect up to Management Studio. And within here, we've got Integration Services, SysDB, and I've got a package in there, which is the one I've just opened up, Test Extracts. Okay? Now, to set customized login, what you do is you right-click, SysDB, Customize Login Level. In the Customize Login Levels here, click on Create, give it a name. I'll call it Test. Now, you can create from an existing login, so there's a number of templates that are available already. Yeah, so right from basic with simple login information through to verbose, which gives you in-depth information. But if you want to see what that's about, what I can do is choose No Template, ensure that the login is selected here, and then go to Statistics. Now, in the Statistics, you can log information about the control flow items with this. You can log information about the data flow items with this. Or if you want to capture the volumes of data that's going through, you can do it with the middle one. So it's up to you. So for example, I might just be interested in looking at the control flow items and the data flow items. Let's say I'm not really too worried about the volumes. And then from there, I then go into events and select the specific events that occur within the actual SIS pipeline. So for example, you may be just interested in warnings, errors, pre-execute. It's up to you. These events represent the different stages of execution of a SIS package, okay? So once that's done, you click on Close. Let me just check I've done that properly. I don't think I clicked on Save. Customize login levels, test. Yeah, it's all saved. That's good. So the idea is if you were to manually run a package, right-click, execute, what you've got under Advanced is the login level, yeah? And then select your custom login level, and there's the list of login that you want to do, okay? Choose OK. Click on OK, and there you go. So this is saying, would you like to view the overview report now? Click on yes, and that'll open it up. Please note that within a SQL Server agent job, you've got that option as well, and this will bring you up a report of what's going on. It was a very quick package, so it's going to be empty, but you will get a range of information in here, such as the duration of a particular package, a particular task, and what the execution path is. All right? So think about that for a minute. If you then set up customized login for errors only, it starts to become a useful tool, particularly when you're supporting this. Would anyone like to ask any questions, please? Did I say please then?
Have you found any instability in 2016 SSIS so far?
As yet, I haven't used it enough in anger to be able to give you a very clear answer on that. You get the usual odd crashes for a proof of concept, but nothing. It's not in production yet from what I'm doing. Okay. Right, moving on. Did say it'd be whirlwind. Right. Come on, Dan, you take over. So how many people were in Dan's session this morning? Yeah, we're good, yeah? Master Data Services. I mean, I use Master Data Services in both BI environments, but I also use them in migration projects as well. So I make use of MDS for a moment. We're doing a cloud migration from Oracle to SAP. We're using integration services as the integration engine. And what we've learned is during the migration, there's been gaps in the data. So we're moving to a new technology with new requirements, new opportunities, but we haven't got the data to fulfill it. Where are we going to get the data from? We get it from the business. Where do we store it? In MDS. So MDS works really, really well in migration projects as well, where you need to fill in gaps of data that would augment the data from the old system to the new system. So what have we got? Well, firstly, we can now use attributes names that are longer than 50 characters. We can now rename the... Can I ask a question? How many people are using MDS? Okay, small handful. Okay, so for those of you that use MDS, you know that when you created an entity, it always had name and code and you couldn't change it. You can now change it, okay? You can create non-clustered indexes on one attribute, but that clustered index can contain multiple columns, so it becomes known as a composite index. That is possible. And you can share an entity between different data models, so effectively you're getting like a conformed entity, so to speak, that's common across all the models itself. I think that's very useful. Yeah. You can, so for leaf members of domain-based attributes, you can set filters against the parent attribute to constrain the allowable values in that domain as well. But one could argue that was the same as the relationship that we used to set up in MDS. Okay? Security. We now have a new super user function permission. Right? So this basically means that we can control the level permissions at a more granular level than we were able to before in previous versions of Master Data Services. So this gives us the granularity at read level, at create, update, and delete. So if you, on this table, what you've got on the left is the permissions that you had in previous versions of MDS and what they are now today. So one example is the person who installs Master Data Services on the server has the full admin permission. Yeah? Well, they've now got super user permission instead. The user has update permissions at the model level and no permissions in the model subtree. Becomes the model admin. Well, user has explicit admin permission to the model level now. User has read permissions, they get read, update, they get all the 4 access permissions, which is create, update, delete, and read. And if they've got deny, they get deny. Okay? So the super user just basically means you get greater control over who can do what, where in Master Data Services. All right? If you want to know more about Master Data Services, I do encourage you to watch Dan's session this morning. I've seen him do parts of it at SQL Bits and really enjoyed what he had to offer. So, yeah, it's well worth it. Performance. This is a welcome. Data compression at the entity level. So an entity, for those that don't use Master Data Services, is essentially a table, right? When we create the entity, we now have an option to define compression, which uses row level compression. yeah, which means we can store data. One gentleman asked the question this morning, you know, he was trying to get a sense of the scalability of MDS and how well it works. The biggest entity I was working on the migration project was about 30-odd columns and 47,500 rows. It took a bit of time to load up. I don't mind admitting that. The compression should help that. Yeah, so you'd probably be waiting for about 2 minutes for that entity to load its data up. Have yet to do it, but I've used compression outside of MDS and it makes a massive difference to performance. So it works really well for those large entities. This is brilliant. The amount of times a transaction log will get filled up. I've been on troubleshooting engagements where a master data service isn't working. It's because the transaction log is full. Yeah, what they've done now is they've introduced a SQL Server agent job that cleans down the transaction log for MDS on a regular basis. You can set it at the system settings of MDS to control the frequency of that. And it's a small change. Yeah, it doesn't seem much, but I have seen the transaction log bring down MDS systems, okay, because it wasn't cleaned down. So that's a welcome addition. So that helps probably more with operations than actually, you know, curating data through MDS. What are other things that we've got? Well, we've got a revision history. So we've almost got like TFS functionality. So whenever an update is made to a member cell, we get a revision of what's gone on there and who made it. We can manage business rules now in the add-in for Excel, which is welcome because at the end of the day, we try and encourage the business users to make use of this technology. You can create derived hierarchies that work with many-to-many relationships. If you've got multiple people working on the same entity, there's a merge conflict so that you can choose which data is authoritative and then republish that change. You can now apply user-defined SQL scripts now in the business rules to basically extend the capability of those business rules. And then you can change sets, so you can save pending changes to an entity, which is almost like the TFS kind of capability that we're used to with version control. You're kind of getting a pseudo version control with the data in MDS as well, which you've had. It's just that now it's been done at an entity level. Okay. Does anyone have any questions about MDS? Now, I'm not going to do a demo on it because Dan did one this morning, but if anyone does have any questions about MDS, I'm free to answer them after this session. How many people use analysis services? Nice. What's the big thing in 2016 for analysis services for you? That's got the biggest hand up. The fact that Tabula's in standard edition? You don't think that's important? I think that's good. I think that's a welcome change. You know, putting Tabula in just Enterprise Edition, you know, kind of narrowed, you know, the market for them. SQL Server is expensive. I think it's value for money. I think it's extremely value for money. But I do welcome the analysis services team making tabular data models available for its standard edition. Yes. Actually, that's a good point. I'll have to check the partition. I think there may be a restriction on that. Okay. The team have worked really hard on improving the query that are generated for direct query mode. So how many people use direct query mode in the tabular data models? Yeah, so there's occasions where you're forced to, yeah. It can be quite painful, yeah. They said at PASS that they worked quite hard to try and improve the T-SQL that was being generated there. So you should see you should see more improved performance of direct query mode, yeah? Obviously, you still always go for the in-memory approach first, but we understand that there are occasions where you've got no choice and you have to go to direct query. That should be served better. Parallel processing now. This is big. Yeah, the fact that we have parallel processing for multiple table partitions in tabular models, yeah? We didn't have that parallel processing before, so this improves the times it takes to process that data. How many people are DBAs in the room? How important is DBCC to you for SQL Server? Oh, come on, how many of you run it? How many of you say it's your red line if you don't do it, you walk out? I've done that, I've walked out of a job. I have, I don't care. Yeah? You want me to make sure your servers are fine, but you're not letting me do the thing that makes sure that your servers are fine? I can't help you, bye. Okay, we've got it for analysis services, which I think is really good, really, really good. Yeah, you can argue that, well, you can reprocess it, but we're moving in a world now where the business can't wait for data. You know, those who are DBAs in the room understand the heads up that you get for running DBCC and how it can help you ensure database consistency. So we've now got that for analysis services. Where do you start with that? How many people use DAX? A raft of functions. And there's more, yeah? So the language is becoming very mature now, yeah? And you've got this raft of capability that you can make use of within your DAX functionality. As I say, these are hyperlinked, so if there's any particular of interest to you, you just go to my slide deck, click on the link, it'll take you to the relevant bit, okay? What I'm trying to do with this new features thing is try and save you time to find the information on the bits that you're interested in, okay? Tabular models, when working in the studio, is supported previous versions. XML files are now being replaced with JSON files. How many people work with XML? So do you have a backup of your analysis services, database, and objects in XML scripts at all? Speed things up. Yeah, you can generate that in a, just right-click the project, generate scripts. Yeah, yeah. Handy to have. So you've got bidirectional cross filters. So basically, do you know in many-to-many relationships, how many of you use these? Yeah? So you've got a bridging table in the middle. And sometimes it could cause ambiguity with the columns, yeah? So what they've now introduced is what they call bidirectional cross filters. And what that enables you to do is when you're slicing data that could have different paths on the many-to-many relationship, it basically removes the ambiguity by specifying the specific attribute of a specific dimension. Yeah? So works well for many-to-many there. Power Pivot mode is now a separate installation instance. Yeah? So it was Power Pivot for SharePoint, yeah? What you're finding in the past, I meant. So in the past, it was Power Pivot for SharePoint. They've decoupled SharePoint on a couple of things with this release. You'll find with reporting services, they're going back, to almost native functionality rather than SharePoint integrated. So basically, in the setup of analysis services, you'll see three options, yeah? Multidimensional, data mining, tabular, and Power Pivot. Which means that we don't have to associate the Power Pivot model with a SharePoint instance. It can be associated independently of SharePoint. And Direct Query mode now supports Oracle, Teradata, and if any of you are still using APS, how many people use APS? You want to be moving to Azure DW. You've got a connection there as well. Yeah, it's good. It is good. Any questions?
Specifically new in the multidimensional side of analysis services.
Sorry, sir, could you repeat the question? I'm a bit deaf.
Anything specifically new on the multidimensional side of analysis services? All of that's tabular related.
Yeah.
JSON.
No, not that I've seen. Not that I've seen. Your next question is, are analysis services dead? Nah. It's interesting now because we've got machine learning, yeah, as part of the Cortana Intelligence Suite, and there was data mining as well. Which how many people use that anyway? You did. Interesting. Wow, I'd like to talk to you after. Be interested to see what your use case was. But no, analysis services in multidimensional models is a very stable product. They're maintaining it. They're doing fixes that are specific to the critical running of that, but beyond that, new functionality, the focus is on tabular. Data quality services, who uses that? Moving on.
Did it get faster?
Can I just say, I've actually successfully used data quality services on one project. That's a big thing. It is. I'm happy. Why aren't you happy? Am I causing you grief? Sorry, cameraman. I do apologise. I keep moving. I'll tell you why it worked. Because the company in question said from the top, we're going to get people involved with it. It wasn't really driven by the IT team. Yeah, there were business analysts involved as well. That's what helped. Why are you laughing? Business analysts are really helpful people. Oh, sorry.
No, we rely on them.
Okay.
I was still thinking of the performance.
Okay. On a serious note, data quality services has not changed. So what I'm saying to you is that if you were to look at content for SQL Server 2014 on data quality services, yeah, it's the same. Yeah, so there is genuinely no changes with data quality services. And for me, if you acknowledge what data quality services can do, and if you acknowledge that it does have limitations and you work within that boundary, it actually works quite well. It's when people start to use it beyond its capability, that's where the problem occurs. But how many people use reporting services? Right, okay. How many of you seen the new reporting services? Okay. So reporting services had the most hands up. So here's what I'm going to do for you. At SQL Bits, I did a full day training day on reporting services. Because you've taken the time and effort to give your time up today, I'm going to give you the PDF book for free, right? Which will go through all the steps of reporting services 2016, right? So I need to find some way to get your name. I'll tell you what, this will be the easy bit. Let's have a secret. Oh, we're on camera. Can I mute this? Are you muting me? People of Ireland, and there'll be a link. That's a 63-page document, yeah? That's a 63-page document which goes through all the new functionality of reporting services in one place, okay? You're more than welcome to have that. So I'll send that out probably within the hour after my session running, okay? You're welcome, you're welcome. I got really excited about this. Oh, can we go back online? Are we back online? I'll let you lot in as well, yeah? Look out for the special people of Ireland on Twitter at ctester_O'Neill, and you'll get a 65-page PDF on reporting services. I felt a bit guilty there. Wow. 18 months ago, I was in Seattle talking to, the guy who heads up reporting services. Yeah, that was 18 months ago. And I turned around to the guy, James Phillips, and I said, James, you need to help me out, right? I'm trying to have conversations with customers about reporting services, and I've got nothing. Tableau is absolutely kicking your butt, right? You've got to give me something to talk about. 12 months later, I stood up in the very same room thanking him for the roadmap that he produced and the visualizations that have been coming through in this release. I'm excited about reporting services. I started my life in the community teaching reporting services. So, yeah, let's go into it. Let's give you some demos. So, forget about that. This was a news article that I did for SQL Bits about how reporting services in previous versions started to suck. and how, it's an interesting video, but we'll leave it there. Anyway, paginated reports. We still have the same capability of paginated reports. What they've done there is they've introduced 2 new visualizations, which are basically tree maps, yeah, and sunbursts, yeah. What I also like about paginated reports is we now have custom placement of parameters. So now we get a new window with essentially a table structure where we can click and drag the parameters into different places. It seems like a small thing, but trust me, users are fussy. We can print to PDF. Yes! Means I can use other browsers. Internet Explorer is really good. I just like other browsers as well. I'm going to get told off. This is what I really like as well. Let me show you this. So, if I go into reporting services configure, oh, wrong one. Let's go into the VM. So if I go to reporting services configuration manager, and connect up to my server, what you'll find at the bottom here is Power BI integration. How many people are using Power BI? You like it? Yeah. Well, get out. So what we're going to do is we've got unregister from Power BI already, right? But what I can do is register with Power BI, sign in to Power BI with my credentials, and then it will log in the components to reporting services that will enable me to pin a reporting services item into a Power BI dashboard. How cool is that? High five. It's really good, right? For someone who's now working in cloud technologies with Cortana and Power BI and Azure DW, that's where I'm kind of hitting these days. That's how I'm talking to customers, yeah? Reporting Services 2016 is really cool, yeah? But even cooler is that I can pin that into Power BI, which now opens up the Cortana Intelligence Suite, and Cortana rocks. I don't care what anyone says, she rocks, right? She's going to be amazing, okay? So, once you've done that, what it means is that you get an icon. When you go into a report, you get the Power BI icon on the report toolbar, and you just click on it, connect up to your Power BI, choose your dashboard, and it puts that visualization in Power BI as well. And that's all done just by setting that reporting services configuration option as well. With regards to the Sunburst and the tree map, Sunburst really works well with ragged hierarchy data sets. So fundamentally, you get this circle with different categories, but you can get concentric circles, which represent series, but the white space that you see in these visualizations can equally tell a more powerful story than the actual visualization itself. So it works really well, does Sunburst with ragged hierarchy data. Tree maps are smaller data sets where you've got that block representation of categories of data, yeah, as you can see here. And the size that you get is appropriate to the value that's in there. Custom parameters looks like this. So when you're in the report, you get this window called parameters, and any parameters you create are in there by default. What you simply do is just drag and drop them. So if I want to move them around, just drag them around into any order you want. You can add columns, you can add rows, you can delete columns, you can delete rows. Okay? Now, they're not on by default. In Report Builder, go on to View and Parameters, and this will appear. Okay? But it's relatively straightforward in how you can use it. Power BI integration I've talked about. Pinning reports to Power BI. So this is accessed from the Report Viewer toolbar. The Power BI Desktop Edition can connect. It was from the March download this was available from. The March download of Power BI Desktop. that can now connect to 2016 reporting services for both KPI visualizations and mobile reports. All right? How many people are interested in this? No, not many. Oh, I'm surprised. Wow, okay. So, well, that's about what I'm going to talk about, isn't it?
Is it HTML or is it native applications?
It's HTML5, isn't it? Yeah, I'm pretty sure I'll check that out. So you know that Microsoft acquired DataZen. The DataZen capability has now been embedded into reporting services in what we call mobile report publisher. Just give me a moment. Let me talk about the web portal functionality in the mobile reports from here. So if I go into here and connect up, first of all, you've got a new look and feel to reporting services. So they now call it the web portal. I love the speed with which it loads. That's how quick it is. Yeah, it is quick compared to the old native one. It's very familiar in the paradigm once you get past the aesthetics. So your site settings are up here. Yeah. The new button is where you can create, for example, a folder. Very straightforward. You can create data sources. You can create KPIs. So, for example, if I do a paginator report that we were just discussing, what that will do is it will open up Report Builder, right? Now, it's not that click once application approach that they've been using. It's a standalone application that you have to download and install. But fundamentally, if you've used reporting services, how many people use reporting services from Report Builder perspective in the past? Okay. You can still do all this functionality in Visual Studio as well. Let me stress that. That still plays a very important role with the canned reporting, yeah, and the source control capabilities that you get with that. But Report Builder is basically what a lot of people are using now. So this is not really different to many different versions of Report Builder from the past. It's clearly improved. This is where the parameters view appears here that I was discussing before. So this is the tabular approach as you start to add report parameters in there to move them about at your heart's content. What happens when you choose mobile report, click on allow. This will bring up the mobile report publisher. And the first thing to mention is that you get a master view. This is the master view here. And my recommendation is that you develop the master view first, right? Because as you develop the master view, you're building the visual assets that you're going to be using in your reports. You can make use of them. You can reuse those visualizations in other layouts. So you've got 3 layouts in total. You've got the master layout, then you've got a layout for tablet, and then you've got a layout for phone. So if I click on tablet, what you'll see is the grid gets smaller. And if I click on phone, it gets smaller again. Does that make sense? So my advice is that you always start with this. Now, on the left-hand side, you've got your toolbox where you do your work. So we've got the layout tab first, where we've got our various visualization objects such as navigators, gauges, charts, maps, and so forth. So for example, you might want to put a selection list here. And what happens there, and you can cut, copy, paste, delete it. What happens when you drag that on is it brings down the visual properties up here that you can configure. So for example, I can say that this is year, yeah. And then what I might go and do is click and drag another one. Go back to this one because that didn't go in there. Let's call that year. Let's drag this up here. It's not responding at all. Let's delete that. Put that selection list there. What we'll do is we'll call this month. then from that we will get a number, drag that across here, call that quantity. Then we might make use of a chart. Now, if you're familiar with using reporting services, many of the options in the properties that you'll see here will be very familiar. So I'm dragging a chart across there. And then let's use a gradient heat map and put that there. Okay, happy with that? Now, essentially, there's numerous visualization properties that you can configure. So number formats, the value direction that will go on the scale, and it will vary depending on which aspect that you click on. Okay, but for people who are familiar with reporting services, you'll probably pick the visualization up very, very easily. Once you've got your layout configured, what you go to then is dealing with the data. Now, just to give you a heads up here, if I click on preview, what this is going to do, it's going to give me a preview of the report I've just created. Because what the mobile data publisher will do by default is give you simulated data so that you can see this, so it's not all blank, right? Now, the simulated data is found on the data pane, and when you click on each one, what you'll see is we've got a simulated filter table, we've got a simulated table and a simulated map for the USA, right? So what we're going to do is we're going to change this by firstly adding our own custom data set, right? And by adding our own custom data set, we can pull in data from Excel or we can pull in data from reporting services. So if I click on that, choose the server that I'm connecting up to, I store my data sets in the dataset folder, and then there's a data set in there called Sales USA. And that will pull that in to the actual report publisher. We get this specific data here, and then what we can go ahead and do is go through each visualization that we have here and bind that data to the visualization. So for example, with the year one in the data properties, instead of using the table called simulated table, I'm going to use the data set called Sales US, yeah? And I'm going to say that the key value is year and the label that's displayed on the report is year as well. There are options that you can configure, but they will vary through different visualizations, which I'll go through. So the same's repeated really for the month visualization, yeah? I'm going to use the Sales US data, but this time I'm going to set the key value to month and the label to month, yeah? And then in the options, then what I'm going to do on the right is filter the data by the Sales US data set by year. Does that make sense? So that's how I'm getting the filtering occurring across the different visualizations. Now I'm just mindful that it's 10 to, so I'm going to start to wrap this up a little bit. So let me quickly go through these. Let's put that as Sales US quantity. Let's go to month sales, Sales US month, and we'll do quantity. Filter by month. Are you getting the idea? So the idea is now is this is being previewed with your data. Say that again.
You know, the American map, you don't need to put the state or something.
Oh, sorry, did I not put that in? Oh, you know what? Thank you very much for picking that. I appreciate you watching me back there. So yeah, you're right. State, then sales that we'll do there. Check that that is month quantity sales. Let's go for state. Yes. Do that. So I'm just mindful that that looks that. Okay, so we're getting that. And I just need to check this one. What am I missing on the month sales? That's sales US.
It's because it's not filtered by any, it's not filtered by any year or month.
Where's that filter though? So that's the year. Filter. Don't want to do that. That looks fine. That looks fine. And then it's the filter for this. Okay, I'm having a mental block at the minute. I will find where that filter is in there. But the idea behind it is fundamentally you should be able to click through different parts and this should appear. But this is not. Let's take that off. That's. Take that off that. So now we're getting that. So basically by taking off the allow all here, we were able to get the filter of the specific list. At the end of the day, what I would do is I would encourage you to download Developer Edition of SQL Server 2016, yeah? Install this. There are a couple of additional tools that you need to install. So you need to download and install Report Builder. You need to download and install Report a mobile report publisher. You also need the distributed C++ as well, but it'll tell you to download that as well. And play around with this because for people who've been using reporting services, you will pick this up very, very quickly. And then the final part is essentially what you'll do is once you're happy with that, is then you'll save that mobile report and you'll save it to essentially a report server. Okay? Any questions? So if I click on Save As there, I can save it to a file system. I can save it to the server. Click on the server. Choose your report server. Give it a name. And then click on Browse to choose that. It's not coming up with the... There it is. Put in Report. And then choose Save. Okay? Any questions?
So there's the master template, the tablet, and the phone.
That's an excellent question. So let me answer that by showing you. So the idea is once you've done, so the question that was asked is, with the phone and the tablet, yeah, can I make reuse of that? You most certainly can. So if I change the layout now to tablet, I get the blank grid, but the visualizations remain on the left. So what you can then do is basically go, you know, I'm going to put this here, I'm going to put this here, I'm going to I think you get the idea, don't you? You might say to yourself, all I'm bothered about here now is just that.
So what is the expected audience
The master template really is the area where it's kind of your blank canvas to do your arts. But you do have to explicitly define the different form factors as you do it. So I have to repeat the same now for this.
Are they different URLs or are they different parameters for the same URL?
So I'm trying to figure out specifically how it's detecting the platform, or specifically the form factor. I've not got an answer to that yet. Yeah, I've not got an answer to that yet. Okay, so any questions? Yeah.
You run like queries on that on systems like if you have your report on your mobile, can you hook it to an OTP with enterprise security still? For example, I'm thinking like plant reporting.
Yeah, so fundamentally, if you want to query data from an OLTP environment, which is your question, yeah, you can still do that. You'd have to create the report in reporting services, first and foremostly. But you're saying it's on a mobile device, which I'm kind of guessing is your concern is pub Friday night, phone left out. Yes. So you have to build security with defense in depth in mind, right? Reporting services alone should not be used in isolation to solve that issue, right? You will have to come up with other things to protect that data on the phone, just like you would with your own phone, if you lose your own phone. So, no, it doesn't deal with the security all out. It's part of the solution, but it's part of other technologies that you would use to protect it.
It works with that directly.
Yeah, it's Windows authentication. It's Windows authentication, yeah. Now, I do want to mention this because I've got 2 minutes left. How many people kept asking for CSS style sheets? Yeah? This is a great attempt at starting it out, but this is where you as the professionals will probably do it, not the business user. So fundamentally, what you've got is custom branding where you've got 3 files that are stored in a zip file of your name. Metadata.xml, colors.json, and logo.png. I tried to rename these files and specify references to them, and it didn't work. So keep them as those names. Your company logo must be logo.png. But effectively, the metadata.xml contains information about these files, and the colors.json file is where you can define the color schemes at a very granular level of the reporting services interface, from the title bar colors to the background colors. It's one of those areas where I would just play around with it. They're trying to solve the problem of, well, we want to do CSS without doing CSS, but they've come up with something that a user won't touch. But it is straightforward for people like you. I'd expect you to pick this up very easily. So I did want to mention that. Export to PowerPoint now is available, which is good and welcome. And reporting service management, all I will say is it's still the same. They've just given different semantic meaning, different semantics for the same thing. So whereas it was Windows authentication in the management, it's now called log on as the user running this report. So they're trying to make it more business friendly, basically. So in summary, I did tell you it'd be a bit of a rush. You know, we've gone through integration services, we've gone through master data services, and I encourage you to watch Dan's presentation. We've acknowledged that data quality services has not changed, but I wanted to call it out. Analysis services, the big change with the Tabular Standard Edition, and finally, reporting services. Thank you very much for your time. I really appreciate it. Watch out in the next 20 minutes on Twitter for the special people of Ireland. Thank you very much. Cheers.